The following steps should be followed just prior to placing the canister out for sampling to ensure no leaks are present in the sampling train. All regulators have passed this test prior to calibration and shipment to you. This test is to ensure no leaks have developed during shipment and the regulator to can connection is tight. Extreme care should be taken while handling and shipping this sampling equipment to avoid damage and/or functionality issues. Warning: people handling this sampling equipment should not use perfumes, colognes, hand sanitizer, cleaning solutions, lotions, permanent markers, or any other substance that may potentially contaminate the sample. Disposable gloves should be worn while handling this equipment. Step 1. Remove the SUMMA can, regulator, and rain guard from the boxes when received and save the boxes for return shipping. Ensure the canister valve is in the closed position. Remove the brass cap from the SUMMA can, install the hand vacuum gauge on the SUMMA can, and open the valve to record starting can vacuum. Close the valve prior to removing the gauge. Note: if using a digital gauge, be sure to turn it on and electronically zero the gauge prior to installing it on the can, following the digital gauge manufacturer's instructions. Step 2. Remove the black protective cap and attach the regulator finger tight to the can. If the nut and ferrule are positioned too high, hold your finger on the end of the regulator and use a wrench to pry the nut and ferrule down to the correct position, being careful not to remove it. Tighten securely with a wrench, but do not over-tighten. Another brass cap should already be installed securely on the inlet of the regulator when received. Check to ensure that this brass cap has not loosened during shipment, but do not over-tighten. Step 3. Turn the valve all the way to the open position and allow several seconds for the regulator vacuum gauge to stabilize and evacuate the sampling train. Vacuum on the regulator gauge should read -28 to -30 inches of mercury. Step 4. Turn the valve all the way to the closed position and monitor the regulator gauge for 3 minutes. Step 5. If the regulator gauge maintains pressure, there are no leaks in the system, and you can proceed to Step 7. Step 6. If the regulator gauge pressure drops during the test, this indicates there is a leak in the system. Tighten all connections and repeat steps 2 to 5 until the regulator gauge maintains pressure throughout the test. If the regulator does not pass the leak test after you have retightened all of the fittings, there may have been internal regulator damage caused during shipment and handling. Regulators that do not pass the leak test should not be used to collect a sample and should be labeled with an equipment failure sticker when returned to the laboratory. Step 7. Remove the brass cap from the regulator inlet, using 2 wrenches to be sure not to disturb any other fittings. Remove the black protective cap and install the rain guard on the regulator, again using 2 wrenches to be sure not to disturb any other fittings. If you determine that other fittings have been disturbed while removing the cap or while installing the rain guard, reinstall the cap on the regulator inlet and repeat the leak test in steps 2 to 5. Once the cap is removed and the rain guard is installed without disturbing the sampling train, turn the valve all the way to the opened position to begin sampling. Do not hang the SUMMA can from the rain guard. Only hang it using the perimeter rail. Step 8. Once the sampling is complete, record the regulator gauge reading on your field data sheet. Turn the valve all the way to the closed position and remove the regulator. If a digital vacuum gauge reading is required, be sure to turn it on and electronically zero the vacuum gauge prior to installing it on the canister, as noted in Step 1. Install the brass caps securely, finger tight, plus a quarter turn using a wrench on the SUMMA can and rain guard. Install the black protective cap on the regulator. Place the regulator inside the smaller box. Place the SUMMA can and regulator box inside the larger box for shipment.